Good morning, first graders. It's Miss Wilsard, and I'm here to read the next part of our listening and learning domain that is all about American independence. And the last time we read, I'll go back and show where we left off. We were reading about the Boston Tea Party. The colonists were really upset with the taxes from the king. And we left off with the colonists writing a letter to the king asking for some of the changes that they wanted. And we were kind of waiting to see what the king's response was going to be. So now we're going to read the next part, lesson 3, called The Shot Heard Round the World, and we'll see what happens next. After the Boston Tea Party, the king sent soldiers to Boston to make sure people were obeying his laws. The soldiers wore fancy red uniforms and were known as the Redcoats. They carried weapons and did not get along with the colonists. There were spies everywhere, and people were nervous about being punished for disobeying the king. How would you feel if you were a colonist during this time? It must have been a little scary to have these soldiers, the ones that my face is right near, with their red coats on and their guns. It must have been pretty scary to see them all the time on the streets and not know if they were going to be mean or if they were going to be nice. Paul Revere was an important patriot that we remember today. He was a friend of the Sons of Liberty. And here is his picture down at the bottom. Now we're going to hear a little bit about Paul Revere because Paul Revere is a very important person. You're going to want to remember Paul Revere. Paul Revere's friends were worried. They had been hiding weapons and goods so they would be prepared to one day fight the Redcoats. Their equipment was hidden at a secret storehouse in the town of Concord. But there was a rumor that the Redcoats knew about the secret storehouse and were planning to raid it in the middle of the night. No one knew if they would take the land route or the water route to Concord. So there was a way to get to Concord by traveling like on boats through the water, or they could take the land on horses to get there. Paul Revere thought of an idea. They would put one lantern in the tower of the old North Church belfry if they were coming by the land route. They would put 2 lanterns if they were coming by the sea route. That night, the Sons of Liberty spied on the British to see if they would come by land or sea. Paul waited to see how many lanterns would be in the church belfry. He waited for a long time, and then he saw 2 lanterns. So what did the 2 lanterns mean? If you look back in the text, it says they would put 2 lanterns if they were coming by the sea route. So now they knew how they were coming and they could prepare for the Redcoats coming. Now that Paul knew the British were coming by sea, he could warn the towns of Lexington and Concord. Did you know that Lexington and Concord aren't even that far away? They're probably like 30 minutes from Lawrence. All of this crazy history that you're seeing in these pictures, this all happened in Massachusetts, right down the street from where we are. He took his horse and galloped toward the town, shouting, "The Redcoats are coming!" People in the town woke up, grabbed their muskets, and prepared to battle. They felt they needed to protect their goods and equipment from being stolen. The townspeople had a way of getting ready for battle extremely fast, which is how they got the nickname of Minutemen. I bet they called them Minutemen because they could get so fast, like they could get all ready for battle in just 1 minute. And that's why they called them Minutemen. The British reached Lexington only to find that the Minutemen were ready for battle. No one knows who, but someone fired the first shot. The British were so shocked by the Minutemen being prepared to fight that they had to retreat or leave the battle and fled back to Boston. The first shot in the first battle is considered the shot heard round the world. It was the start of a long war for American independence. So we just read about the shot heard round the world, which was that very first battle between the colonists and the Redcoats. Let's look at our discussion questions. The first question said, how did Paul Revere help the colonists? Well, in our story, we learned that Paul Revere was looking and looking for the lanterns, and he was looking for either one lantern or two lanterns. And then he used that information to go alert the people in Lexington and Concord so that they could be ready to fight. The next question, why do you think Paul Revere was willing to do this? Paul Revere was a patriot. He was a son of liberty. He wanted to be independent from the king. He did not like the king's taxes. So he wanted to help the colonists. He did not want to help the Redcoats. Next question. What does the well-known phrase, one if by land and two if by sea mean? Well, think back to our story. We read that if there was one lantern, that means that the British were coming on the land route. And if there were two lanterns, they were coming from the sea route. If they didn't know if they were coming by land or sea, they wouldn't be able to be prepared for the battle. Who were the Redcoats? The Redcoats were the British soldiers. They wore bright red uniforms, so they were pretty easy to see. Who were the Minutemen? The Minutemen were the colonists who could get ready for battle really fast. They even say that some of them slept with their uniform and all of their equipment right next to their bed, so that if they heard an alarm, they could get up and put on their uniform and get out and be ready for battle like that. What was the shot heard round the world, and why was it called that? Do you think that people all the way across the world could really hear the shot? No, they couldn't really hear it. But that first battle between the Minutemen and the Redcoats was so famous that people all around the world heard that the British and the colonists were fighting. So it was a pretty big deal. Next time we read together, we're going to hear about what happens next. Now the British and the colonists are in a war with each other. What is going to happen? Who is going to win the war? Are they ever going to resolve their problems and stop fighting? We'll have to wait and see. I'll see you all next time. Bye.